There's a truth that everyone must eventually face. All external structures, religion, society, education, cultural identity, are merely constructs. They were not created to liberate you, but to shape you into someone measurable, controllable, and predictable. You have been taught to become, but never asked, who are you when you stop trying to become anything? Peace does not come from achieving an ideal model, but from returning within, where you no longer need to prove anything to the world. When you are happy for no reason, you have stepped out of the conditioning system. When you are quiet without meditation, you have transcended technique. When you feel okay amid all chaos, you're no longer pulled by collective programming. Awakening is not pursuing truth, but releasing everything that is not you. Freedom is not breaking chains, but seeing that you are never bound. You don't need to fight society. You just need to not need it to know who you are. And when you live like that, you are no longer a product of the world. You become a source of light for it. You didn't come here to make sense. You came to exist. And existing, sometimes, is the most revolutionary thing you can do. The foundation of authentic being. The journey toward authentic selfhood begins with a radical recognition. Everything you've been told about who you should be is a story written by others. From birth, you are subjected to conditioning that molds you into a socially acceptable form. Parents, teachers, religious leaders, media, and peers all contribute to this construction project, each adding layers of expectation to your emerging sense of self. But what if this entire project is flawed? What if the assumption that you need to become someone is itself the problem? The deepest insights throughout history point to a startling possibility. You already are what you seek to become. Consider the child who plays freely without self-consciousness, who laughs spontaneously, who experiences wonder at simple things. This child exists in a state of natural being that adults spend lifetimes trying to rediscover through spiritual practices and self-improvement programs. The tragedy is not that we lose this natural state. The tragedy is that we are taught to believe we never had it. Society functions on the premise that humans are fundamentally flawed and need constant improvement. This creates a perpetual market for solutions to problems that may not actually exist. The anxiety and meaninglessness plaguing modern life often stem not from genuine deficiencies, but from the impossible task of trying to be someone other than who we naturally are. True awakening is not about adding something to yourself. It is about subtracting everything that was never truly you. When you stop trying to be spiritual, you may discover natural reverence. When you stop trying to be successful, you may find genuine fulfillment in simple activities. When you stop trying to be loved, you may recognize the love that you already are. Practical daily implementation. Living authentically requires developing new ways of relating to everyday situations without depending on maintaining a fixed identity. Start each morning by asking not, what do I need to accomplish today, but what wants to express itself through me today. This subtle shift moves you from performing predetermined roles to responding from your natural being. Throughout the day, practice pausing before automatic reactions. When someone criticizes you, instead of immediately defending, pause and feel what is actually present beneath conditioned response. When facing decisions, ask your body what feels expansive versus contractive rather than only consulting your mind. In conversations, practice speaking from what is true for you rather than what you think others want to hear. This doesn't mean being inappropriate, but not filtering authentic expression through fear of judgment. Notice when you're performing a role versus simply being yourself. Performance feels effortful and artificial, while authentic being feels natural and energizing. In work situations, bring your natural qualities to tasks rather than adopting a professional persona. Your creativity, humor, compassion, and unique perspective are assets, not liabilities to hide. When conflicts arise, respond from presence rather than programmed patterns of fighting or fleeing. This involves acknowledging what is happening without immediately trying to fix it. Practice saying, "I don't know," when you genuinely don't know something, rather than pretending to have answers. This creates space for authentic discovery. In relationships, express actual feelings and needs rather than what you think will maintain harmony. True harmony comes from authentic connection, not from avoiding difficult conversations. Before sleep, reflect on moments when you felt most authentic versus most performed. This develops your capacity to distinguish between these states and choose authenticity more consistently. Remember that living authentically is not about perfection, but about increasing moments of genuine presence. Each authentic moment contributes to your freedom and becomes a gift to everyone around you. Navigating social pressures and expectations. One of the greatest challenges in authentic living is dealing with inevitable resistance when you stop playing familiar roles. Family members may feel confused when you no longer behave according to their expectations. Colleagues might question your commitment when you stop performing excessive dedication to meaningless projects. Friends may feel abandoned when you no longer participate in activities that drain your energy. This social friction is not a sign you're doing something wrong. It is a natural consequence of stepping out of collective programming. The key is navigating these situations with compassion while maintaining authentic expression. When your mother expects daily calls out of obligation, you can choose to call when you genuinely want to connect rather than from guilt. When your boss pressures overtime on meaningless tasks, you can complete actual responsibilities excellently while declining workplace theater. When friends invite you to inauthentic social events, you can suggest alternatives that feel genuine or decline gracefully without elaborate explanations. The practice involves distinguishing between necessary social cooperation and unnecessary role-playing. You can be professional without being fake, loving without being codependent, helpful without being a people pleaser. This requires developing capacity to disappoint others when their expectations conflict with authentic expression. Most people are more adaptable than expected when you consistently demonstrate authentic behavior. They may initially resist change, but often come to respect genuine presence over performed persona. Those who cannot accept your authenticity may naturally drift away, making space for relationships based on genuine connection rather than mutual role-playing. The transition period can feel lonely as old relationships evolve and new ones have not yet formed. This temporary isolation is often necessary for developing strength to maintain authenticity despite social pressure. Use this time to deepen your relationship with yourself and clarify what kinds of connections you truly want. When explaining changes to others, keep explanations simple and avoid trying to convince anyone your approach is correct. You might say, "I'm exploring what feels most genuine for me," rather than launching into philosophical discussions. Your example speaks louder than explanations, and trying to convert others often creates unnecessary conflict. Authentic decision-making and life choices. Traditional decision-making relies on external criteria. What will make money, impress others, or be considered successful? Authentic decision-making includes practical considerations while prioritizing alignment with your natural being. This requires developing sensitivity to inner guidance and learning to trust it even when it conflicts with conventional wisdom. Begin by noticing how different options feel in your body. Decisions aligning with your authentic path typically create expansion, energy, and rightness, even if they involve uncertainty. Decisions against your nature often feel contractive or off, even if they appear logical. This somatic intelligence is more reliable than mental analysis alone because it includes information your conscious mind might miss. When facing major decisions, create space for quiet reflection away from external pressures. Ask what you would choose if you couldn't fail, if money weren't a consideration, if you didn't have to explain your choice. These questions help access authentic preferences beneath conditioning and fear. Consider long-term consequences of living authentically versus according to others' expectations. While authentic choices may involve short-term challenges, they typically lead to greater satisfaction over time. Inauthentic choices may provide temporary security, but often result in chronic dissatisfaction and eventual need for major life changes. Practice making small, authentic choices daily to build capacity for larger ones. Choose food your body wants rather than what you think you should eat. Wear clothes that feel good rather than what is fashionable. Engage in conversations that interest you rather than making small talk. These practices develop sensitivity to authentic preference and courage to act on it. When authentic choices conflict with practical necessities, look for creative solutions rather than assuming you must choose between authenticity and responsibility. You might meet financial obligations while gradually transitioning toward more authentic work. You might discover that living simply allows more freedom for authentic expression. Include trusted friends in decision-making, but be selective about whose opinions you consider. Choose people who know and support your authentic nature rather than those invested in maintaining familiar roles. Their role is not making decisions for you, but helping clarify your authentic response. Remember that authentic decisions often cannot be fully justified to others because they include intuitive and personal factors difficult to explain. You may need to make choices that appear irrational while knowing they are correct for you. This requires developing confidence in your judgment and willingness to take responsibility for consequences. Integrating authenticity with practical responsibilities. A common objection to authentic living is believing it incompatible with practical responsibilities like supporting family, maintaining professional commitments, or fulfilling social obligations. This perceived conflict stems from all-or-nothing understanding, assuming you must abandon external responsibilities to live genuinely. In reality, authentic living involves bringing genuine presence to existing responsibilities rather than abandoning them entirely. The key is approaching responsibilities from authentic motivation rather than guilt, fear, or social pressure. When you care for family from genuine love rather than obligation, the same activities become expressions of authentic nature rather than burdens. When you fulfill work commitments from professional integrity rather than fear, work becomes a vehicle for expressing natural qualities of reliability, creativity, and service. This shift in motivation transforms the quality of actions without necessarily changing their external form. You may still work the same job, maintain relationships, and fulfill obligations, but from presence rather than programming. Start by examining current responsibilities to distinguish between those arising from authentic care and those maintained from social conditioning or fear. You may discover many obligations are actually choices you can modify without causing harm. For genuinely necessary responsibilities, explore ways to fulfill them that align with authentic expression. This might involve changing how you approach tasks, communicating honestly about needs and limitations, or finding creative solutions serving both practical necessities and authentic expression. For example, if you need certain income to support family, explore earning through work utilizing natural talents rather than work requiring suppression of authentic nature. The transition may take time and patience, but is often more possible than initially appears. Practice bringing mindful presence to routine activities like household chores, commuting, or administrative tasks. These can become opportunities for meditation and authentic expression rather than mindless drudgery when approached with right attitude. Find small ways to express authentic nature within existing structures. This might involve bringing creativity to problem solving at work, expressing genuine appreciation to family members, or finding moments of beauty in everyday activities. These small expressions can transform your experience of routine responsibilities. Communicate honestly about your process of living more authentically without making others wrong for different approaches. You might explain that you are exploring ways to bring more genuine presence to shared activities. Most people appreciate authentic engagement more than performed compliance, even if they cannot articulate this preference. Remember that authentic living is not about eliminating all challenges from life. It is about facing challenges from genuine nature rather than conditioned reaction patterns. This often makes you more effective at handling practical responsibilities because you respond from clarity and presence rather than stress and reactivity. The goal is not to create a perfect life, but to live whatever life you have from your authentic center, transforming ordinary activities into expressions of your natural being and finding freedom within rather than escape from your actual circumstances. Money, security, and material concerns. One of the most persistent fears preventing authentic living is concern about money and material security. Conventional wisdom suggests authentic living is a luxury only those with financial security can afford, and that survival requires compromising authenticity for economic necessity. While financial concerns are legitimate, the relationship between authenticity and material well-being is more complex and often more positive than commonly believed. The fear-based approach to money involves working primarily for security, making decisions based solely on financial considerations, and believing you need to accumulate resources to be safe and happy. This approach often leads to quiet desperation where you trade authentic expression for financial stability, only to discover no amount of money compensates for loss of natural being. The authentic approach recognizes that while material resources are necessary for survival, obsessive pursuit of security often creates more insecurity than it resolves. When you live authentically, you tend to make more skillful money decisions because you're not driven by fear or compulsion. You spend on things that truly matter rather than things you think you should want. You pursue fulfilling work rather than just financially rewarding work, often discovering that fulfilling work can also be financially successful. This doesn't mean being irresponsible with money or ignoring practical planning. Authentic living includes taking care of material needs and being responsible toward dependence. The difference is that practical considerations are balanced with authentic expression rather than dominating it. You might choose to live more simply for more freedom, or discover ways to earn money that align with natural talents. Many people discover that living more authentically naturally improves their relationship with money. They may need less money to be happy because they're no longer trying to fill inner emptiness with possessions. They may discover talents that can be monetized in previously unconsidered ways. They may attract opportunities aligning with authentic expression because they're no longer sending mixed messages about what they truly want. The transition to authentic relationship with money often involves uncertainty, where you learn to trust that authentic expression can support you materially. This requires developing faith in life's natural intelligence and your own creative capacity. It may involve calculated risks, learning new skills, or finding creative solutions to financial challenges. The key is approaching this transition gradually and skillfully rather than making dramatic changes, creating unnecessary hardship. One practical approach is gradually reducing dependence on income from work that doesn't align with authentic expression while developing income from activities that do align. This might involve starting a business based on natural talents, developing skills allowing more independent work, or reducing expenses so you need less income overall. The goal is creating sustainable lifestyle, supporting both material needs and authentic expression. Another important aspect is recognizing that true security comes from your capacity to respond creatively to changing circumstances rather than from accumulating resources. When connected to authentic being, you have access to creativity, intuition, and natural intelligence, helping you navigate financial challenges more effectively than fear-based planning alone. This doesn't mean being naive about practical concerns. but including authentic wisdom in financial decision-making. Health and the body as vehicles of authentic expression. The relationship between authentic living and physical health is profound and often overlooked. Your body is not separate from authentic being. It is the vehicle through which your authentic nature expresses itself in the physical world. When you live authentically, you naturally tend to make choices supporting physical well-being because you're listening to your body's natural wisdom rather than overriding it with mental concepts. The conventional approach to health involves following external rules about diet, exercise, and lifestyle without considering individual constitution and natural rhythms. While general health principles can be helpful, the authentic approach involves developing sensitivity to your body's actual needs and responses rather than following generic prescriptions. This might mean eating foods that feel nourishing to your particular body rather than following dietary trends. Engaging in physical activities you genuinely enjoy rather than forcing yourself through disliked exercise routines, or sleeping according to natural rhythms rather than arbitrary schedules. Many health problems relate to stress and tension from living inauthentically. When constantly trying to be someone other than who you are, your nervous system remains chronically activated, leading to various physical symptoms. The body holds tension from maintaining false personas, suppressing authentic emotions, and performing roles that don't align with natural being. When you begin living more authentically, this tension often releases naturally, leading to improvements in both physical and mental health. Authentic living includes developing a loving and respectful relationship with your body rather than treating it as an object to be controlled or improved. This involves listening to your body's signals about hunger, fatigue, pleasure, and discomfort rather than overriding these signals with mental agendas. It means treating your body as a wise partner in your life journey rather than as a machine that should perform according to expectations. Emotional authenticity is particularly important for physical health because suppressed emotions create tension and blockages that can eventually manifest as physical symptoms. When you allow yourself to feel and express emotions naturally rather than suppressing them to maintain a particular image, your body can return to its natural state of flow and balance. This doesn't mean being emotionally indulgent, but acknowledging and honoring your emotional reality rather than pretending to feel differently. The body also serves as a reliable guide for authentic decision-making. Your body often knows what is right for you before your mind figures it out. Learning to sense the body's responses to different choices, relationships, and situations provides valuable guidance for living authentically. A decision aligning with authentic being typically feels expansive and energizing in the body, while decisions going against authentic nature often feel contractive or draining. Physical practices like yoga, martial arts, dance, or simply spending time in nature can support authentic living by helping you develop greater sensitivity to your body's wisdom and natural rhythms. These practices are most beneficial when approached as ways of connecting with authentic nature rather than as techniques for self-improvement. The goal is not achieving a particular physical state, but using physical practice as a way of deepening relationship with authentic being. Creativity and natural expression. Creativity is not a special talent some people have and others lack. It is the natural expression of authentic being. When connected to your essential nature, creativity flows naturally because you're no longer filtering expression through mental concepts about what is acceptable, valuable, or impressive. Every authentic being has unique ways of expressing life's creative force, and discovering and nurturing these expressions is essential to living authentically. The conventional approach to creativity often involves trying to develop artistic skills or produce creative works that will be recognized and valued by others. While skill development and external recognition can be enjoyable, they can become obstacles to authentic creative expression if they become the primary focus. When you're more concerned with how creativity will be received than with the joy of creative expression itself. You begin filtering and modifying natural creative impulses to meet external expectations. The authentic approach to creativity involves expressing what wants to be expressed through you without attachment to outcomes or others' opinions. This might involve traditional artistic mediums like painting, music, or writing, or creative approaches to cooking, gardening, conversation, problem solving, or any other activity. The key is not the medium, but the quality of expression. Whether you're allowing authentic nature to flow through activities or performing creativity to achieve particular results. Many people believe they're not creative because they compare themselves to professional artists or because early creative expressions were criticized or discouraged. This belief prevents them from exploring natural creative impulses existing within everyone. Reconnecting with your creative nature often involves returning to the playful, experimental attitude you had as a child before learning to judge expressions as good or bad, valuable or worthless. Creative expression serves multiple functions in authentic living. It provides a direct outlet for energy and inspiration arising from essential nature. It helps you discover aspects of yourself that may not be apparent through other activities. It connects you with joy and satisfaction from creating something new rather than just consuming what others have created. It can also serve as a bridge between inner experience and outer world, allowing others to connect with your authentic nature through creative expressions. The practice of authentic creativity involves showing up regularly to engage with whatever creative impulses arise without forcing or controlling the process. This might mean setting aside time each day for creative expression, even if you don't feel particularly inspired. It might mean carrying a notebook to capture ideas and insights as they arise. It might mean creating a physical space in your home that supports creative activity. The key is approaching creativity as a natural function rather than as a special activity requiring particular conditions or moods. One of the biggest obstacles to authentic creativity is the inner critic, the voice that judges creative expressions as not good enough, not original enough, or not valuable enough. This voice often reflects internalized messages from parents, teachers, or society about what constitutes worthwhile creative expression. Learning to recognize and gently ignore this voice is essential for allowing natural creativity to flow. The goal is not to eliminate self-reflection or discernment, but to distinguish between helpful feedback and destructive criticism. Sharing creative expressions with others can be both rewarding and challenging. When you share from authentic expression rather than from need for validation, you create opportunities for genuine connection and mutual inspiration. However, it's important to choose your audience wisely and maintain creative integrity regardless of others' responses. Some creative expressions are meant to be shared widely, others for small circles of trusted friends, and still others to remain private. The wisdom lies in knowing which is which for each particular expression. The relationship between creativity and livelihood is another area requiring careful navigation. While it can be wonderful to earn money from creative work, it's important not to let financial considerations dominate creative expression. Many artists find they need to maintain some creative activities purely for personal expression, separate from commercial considerations. This helps preserve the authentic source of creativity that can otherwise become compromised by market pressures. Living as your authentic self. The ultimate realization of authentic living is understanding that you are not someone who needs to become authentic. You are authenticity itself, temporarily forgetting your true nature through layers of conditioning. The journey is not about acquiring something new, but about remembering what has always been present. This remembering happens not through effort, but through relaxation, not through becoming, but through being, not through achieving, but through accepting what is already here. When you live as your authentic self, Ordinary activities become expressions of your natural being. Work becomes service. Relationships become opportunities for genuine connection. Challenges become invitations for creative response. And daily life becomes a continuous expression of who you truly are. This is not a goal to achieve, but a reality to recognize. Not a future state to attain, but a present truth to embody. The revolution of authentic living is quiet and personal, but its effects ripple outward to touch everyone you encounter. When you stop trying to be someone else, you give others permission to do the same. When you express your natural being without apology, you create space for others to discover their own authenticity. When you live from presence rather than programming, you become a source of peace and inspiration in a world hungry for genuine connection. You are not someone else. You are yourself before all definitions, beyond all roles, prior to all conditioning. This is not a philosophy to believe, but a reality to live, not a concept to understand, but a truth to embody. The invitation is simple. Stop trying to become someone and start being who you already are. In this being, you discover that you have always been free, you have always been whole, and you have always been exactly what the world needs you to be.